Schumer's shut down Kabuki Theater is dwindling down, the curtain's falling, and the stare down is going to lead Schumer to start blinking. We're going to show you all the latest on that. And John Fetterman actually giving Republicans an idea on how to end this whole thing. We'll lay it all out for you and show you how Democrats have lost this one. They just haven't quite figured out how to try to save face at the end of the game. Also, Abigail Spanberger is in big trouble in Virginia. We'll show you about how the DNC is trying to scramble and pump money into that campaign. Obama is going to come out. But even Morning Joe today recognizes the warning signs on a failed campaign. And finally, Jen Psaki is a horrible human being. No, that's it. That'll be the whole segment. Jen Psaki is a horrible human being. And so is her whole network over there on MS. Is it still now or NBC or whatever it is? We'll show you all of that and a whole lot more coming up right now. My name is Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. We're live from New York City today. New York City. Yeah, that's right. Manhattan, the belly of the beast. I had to say goodbye to this city. Just one last farewell before the communists take over. Love this town. If you do too, why don't you give us a thumbs up here? And if you don't like New York City, give us a thumbs up. In other words, no matter where you stand on your love and appreciation for New York City, give our video a like. That would go a long way to build our audience and help our show continue to grow and get more people exposed to the way we analyze and present the news. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, whatever platform you're watching us on right now, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, wherever. Just give us a subscription so that you don't miss another episode. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Microplastics are infiltrating every part of our lives. I walk down the street in New York, microplastics everywhere. Actually, in New York, there's macroplastics. Scientists estimate we now consume a credit card's worth of plastic every week. Think about that for a second. This is coming in through our water, our food, even the air that we breathe. One study found plastic particles in 100% of human lung samples. Nobody is actually safe from exposure, and it gets worse. These plastics don't just sit in your body. Oh, they cross the gut lining. They leach into your blood. They disrupt everything. They've been shown to alter gut bacteria. They suppress your immune response. They increase your risk of neurodegenerative disease, metabolic disorders, cancer even. Some plastic toxins like BPA and phthalates mimic hormones. They interfere with fertility and they damage your DNA. Even if you eat clean and you avoid packaged foods and you do everything that Bobby Kennedy suggests, you're still being exposed. It's not like you can opt out of microplastics. All right, that's the bad news. Here's the good news. You come here for solutions, right? Your gut can actually help you fight back. Kimchi 1 from Brightcore Nutrition is a potent ally in this toxic world. It's packaged with over 900 probiotic strains unique to kimchi and proven to break down BPA, helping you detox from the inside out. It doesn't just support digestion. It helps protect your cells, your brain, your hormones, and your future. If you're worried about your health like I am, you should do what I do and check out Kimchi 1. I take it daily now. Your body was never designed to handle plastic, but your gut was designed to protect you. You just have to give it the right tools, the right weapons. Right now, you can get 25% off with code Larry. Just go to mybrightcore.com/Larry. That's easy. mybrightcore.com/Larry. 25% off with the Larry code. But if you want an even better deal, and I bet you do, call my buddies over there at Brightcore. You can get up to 50% off plus free shipping. The phone number to call, 888-462-4779. That's 888-462-4779. All right, time for your latest update on the government shutdown. You know what? I'm going to toss it over to one of the best connected and researched congressional correspondents on Capitol Hill. He's one of their producers and reporters, Chad Pegram. Here, he's going to give you a program, Chad. He's going to give you a quick rundown on where things stand.
This is a staring contest of the highest order. Neither side is willing to budge to reopen the government. Democrats insist the only way to unlock the shutdown is to have bipartisan talks about health care with the president.
Donald Trump, instead of leaving the country or before he leaves the country, should sit down and negotiate with us so we can address this horrible crisis. He should not be going away before he negotiates. The American people are in crisis.
Democrats are sticking to their demand for money to defray the cost of Obamacare. Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries say the president was interested in the issue when they met in September. But President Trump is unwilling to talk right now.
I would love to meet. I would like to meet with both of them, but I set one little caveat. I will only meet if they let the country open. They have to let the country open. The people want to go back to work, so I'll do it as soon as they open up the country. I'd like to meet.
All right. So first of all, President Trump staying on message, consistent throughout this entire process. Last time he met with Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries was the day they went outside the West Wing, gave the little press gaggle, and that's when Hakeem Jeffries decided to put on that sombrero and wear the Cheeto Bandito mustache. That was so funny. God, that guy is hilarious. Anyway, that was it. That was the last time there was any meeting. See, Schumer there, I love Schumer. The American people are suffering. They're hurting. The president needs that. They're hurting because you hurt them, pal. They're suffering because you've inflicted suffering on them. This is all his doing. And what he wants is he wants to go back to the good old days, as we keep telling you. He wants a backroom deal. And he really wants to have another photo op. You remember in the last government shutdown, when President, and I mean the government shutdown during the Trump administration 1.0 in 2019. And there was a scene in the Oval Office with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, President Trump, Vice President Pence was there. Remember him? That's a good old day. Anyway, there they are sitting in the Oval Office. And as usual, you know, this is before Trump sort of refined this whole process of having the media come in and watch. And, you know, Trump was shooting from the hip and shooting from the lip. And Schumer and Pelosi believe they got the better of those photo ops. They believe that they actually advanced the political ball because they were the sage, wise old DC professionals, and Trump didn't know what the hell he was doing, and now we've got chaos. That's what Schumer wants. Schumer continues to fight last year's war, yesterday's battle. He doesn't understand what time it is. President Trump knows what time it is. That's why he is not engaged in any of this stuff. Have you noticed that he hasn't given a daily press conference about the government shutdown? Sure, he answered a question there, but every single one of his daily events in front of the media, in front of cameras, it has to do with international affairs. It has to do with big picture stuff. It has to do with the stuff that the executive branch is dealing with that the legislative branch doesn't even touch. Things like the military, things like, you know, settling the peace process in the Middle East and in Europe. All this stuff that makes him elevated to the level of statesman and head of state. And meanwhile, who's giving the daily press conferences on the government shutdown? Who has President Trump deferred to allow this legislative battle to go forward? He has deferred to this guy, Speaker Mike Johnson, because he is the head of the legislative branch in the House of Representatives. He's given the daily press conference. Trump this time around has more faith in his Speaker of the House, in Mike Johnson. Who was his Speaker of the House last time around? Yeah, that's right. Paul Ryan. And we've learned subsequently that he was sort of operating behind Donald Trump's back and with ulterior motives to Donald Trump's agenda. We know that. He's shown his true colors. He trusts this guy. This guy has handled everything for him every single day at the 10 a.m. press briefing. We've shown you the highlights. And if you watch this program, you've seen over the last week now, we have shown you Speaker Johnson getting more aggressive, more aggressive, more aggressive. Check him out today.
And we passed a clean, nonpartisan CR to keep the government open for the people. Now look on the other side of that figurative split screen as demonstrated here. The lights are out. It's all dark. Why? Because what the Democrats have accomplished in 9.5 months is a government shutdown. A couple other things sort of related to that. You know, they have made a lot of TikTok videos. We'll give them credit for that. They've also assaulted law enforcement officers. One of them's on trial for that. They've openly embraced and rallied with communists and socialists, most recently across the country on Saturday. They voted to raise taxes on millions of hardworking Americans at the worst possible time. They have voted against reducing fraud, waste, and abuse in government, and they have now voted collectively, Democrats in Congress have voted 12 times to keep the government closed down. But it doesn't stop there. The Democrat shutdown is a glaring example of just how far the Democratic Party has strayed from common sense. Remember the simple truth here. It was over a month ago now that we passed, the Republicans passed the clean, short-term continuing resolution. It's nonpartisan. No gimmicks, no tricks, no riders, no partisan Republican policy priorities added to that. It's 24 pages in length, as we've discussed so many times, and it is very, very simple. Why? Because it was a very simple good faith effort on our part to preserve our ability to keep negotiating on the full year funding bills. And of course, the other big issues facing the American people.
All right. Now, again, on message, but do you notice he's getting more aggressive? Yesterday, he named names and associated senators, Democrats, who are voting against funding the government and then linked it to programs that are about to shut down or are unfunded in those senators' states. If you missed yesterday's show, check it out. It was great. Now, today, he's got a litany. What have they accomplished? Well, they did, march with communists. And one of the members is now, standing trial for assaulting federal officers. They got that going for him. And he's listing out all of these things to show you exactly what they've accomplished with their shutdown. Also, to the point I just made about how President Trump is staying on message and focusing and saying, you're right. I completely agree. Obamacare is completely f***ed up, and I want to help you fix it. All you got to do is vote to fund the government, and then we can have that conversation. Trump has been saying that since day one, and he is being disciplined and staying on it. And what did I just say? He's showing himself to be a statesman, solving problems around the world, which makes the Democrats in D.C. look more obstinate than radical Islamic terrorists, literally. The jihadists will sit with Trump and work things out. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries won't. And so the visual here that you're looking at right now with Johnson continuing to shore up this fight on behalf of the government and the country, look at the lower right corner. What do you see? Later today, Trump meeting with the head of NATO. Statesman, right? Also, by the way, in this press conference, Mike Johnson continues to use the language that he should be using about what the Democrats are doing to you, to your government services, to your military, to your air traffic controllers, to all of the people who are either out of work or furloughed or deferred pay.
So Republicans cannot and will not solve it in a backroom deal. Chuck Schumer has been suggesting that 4 leaders should go into a smoke-filled back room like they used to do in the old days and create this solution. It's not a possible thing to do. It was never appropriate. It's not possible to put on a continuing resolution because it's such a complex issue. Issues of this magnitude deserve deep thought and deliberation. That's how this system works here. And as soon as Chuck Schumer reopens the government, all of our members will have an opportunity to engage in the very important discussion of how to make Obamacare affordable. But we won't engage in Democrats' hostage taking, nor will we pay a ransom.
Good for him. Hostage taking, no ransom. Stop. But Obamacare. Okay, fine. We agree. Now take the gun away from our heads, fund the government so everything operate normally. Stop with your histrionics. Stop with your made-for-TV, Survivor reality show, drama queen bullshit. And then we can talk. It's exactly what Johnson should be doing. And I've been telling you for over a week now, these daily 10 a.m. press conferences are very effective, and they're getting picked up by the media, and his facts are unassailable. Schumer's getting hammered in these press conferences. So Schumer decided it was time for him to come out and show that he can engage in these issues too. Okay, Chuck, how did it go?
Next one.
Leader Schumer, leadership is offering to negotiate on the Affordable Care Act with you if you reopen the government. Why won't you take the deal?
The bottom line is that's no deal. That's a partisan plan that leaves the American people high and dry. And they've asked us for 45 days and 45 days and 45 days. When they say another 45 days, later to them means never. We have to get them to the table and negotiate with us now.
Okay, so a couple things. I don't know if you heard the question, but again, this is why it's so important that Republicans have stayed on message. Because the question was, hey, Republicans say that they'll talk to you about the Affordable Care Act and you'll get a vote and we'll figure something out. All you got to do is fund the government. Why isn't that deal worth taking? Why don't you just take that deal? I mean, that's the thing. Even when the mainstream media, the corporate legacy media is asking that question, it's a very simple message. And it's a question that, well, they have no defense. They have no answer to it, except for this. which is I'm Chuck Schumer and I'm going to do what I want to do, and I want to get behind closed doors and work out some backroom deal so it looks like I accomplished something.
Bottom line is that's no deal. That's a partisan plan that leaves the American people high and dry. And
does he look like a man who's in control of this situation? Does he look like the alpha in this debate? Does he look like the person who's actually on the winning side of the argument? Is he acting and speaking like he's the winner in this entire episode? Or does he look like the angry, desperate despot that he obviously is? Hold that thought before you answer the question, because let's check on his counterpart, who's also trying to do some media over in the House, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
But we will not be intimidated. We will continue to show up and stand up and speak up for the American people, to improve their quality of life, to address the extremism that is being unleashed on everyday Americans by this administration all across the country. We will not bend.
Hold on. I'll let you finish, Hakeem. He really should grow that mustache. It's just a better look for him. I thought that the government shutdown that they have initiated is all about making sure that people's health insurance bills aren't too high. Of course, they will be high. The only difference is that instead of paying all of their money to the insurance companies who benefit from the Democrats breaking the health insurance industry 15 years ago with Obamacare, instead of paying all that money out of your pocket to the health insurance companies, instead you're going to pay a portion of it in your premiums, and then the rest of it will come out of your astronomically high taxes, or will increase our national debt by taking tax dollars that our government doesn't have and giving it to those insurance companies on your behalf. That's the choice. Again, I just want to make sure you recognize that the government, if the Democrats have their way, are doing nothing to reduce the cost of health care or health insurance. The cost is going to stay the same. The difference is the American people who are utilizing the subsidies right now to pay for their health insurance, they're going to get a break because the government will be spending their money through taxes and their grandchildren's money through printing money that we don't have and adding to our national debt and giving it to the insurance companies. Costs are still there. It's still a broken system. The difference is the Democrats are going to make it seem like you're not paying so much, but instead they're going to keep taking your money through taxes and giving it to insurance companies. It's quite a scheme. But I thought that's what this was about, right? Their message has been that. Oh, yeah, we got to shut down the government because we got to fix healthcare. And the Republicans need to come to the table, and they won't unless we shut down the government. But now, what is this from Hakeem Jeffries? I'm sorry, what are you trying to do here?
Of life, to address the extremism that is being unleashed on everyday Americans.
Oh, so we've shut down the government to address the extremism unleashed on everyday Americans? And by the way, what is that extremism? Oh, you mean ICE agents enforcing the laws of our land? That's the extremism. Well, I guess to a Democrat who wants open borders and rampant illegal immigration and criminals to walk free, I suppose that is extreme. You extremist, how dare you? How dare you enforce the laws that we passed? That's extreme. Yeah, I guess, from his perspective. Okay, so there's a new message. See how Republicans stay on message. Republicans have done the same thing. We got a clean bill. We want to fund the government. Then we can get to business. It's that simple. Stop being a child. Democrats are all over the frickin' place. Schumer's like, we got to fix Obamacare. And then they cut over to Hakeem Jeffries. We're standing up to the extremism. Okay, you know what? Pick a lane, dudes. But I ask you, well, let me let him finish.
By this administration, all across the country, we will not bend, we will not break, we will never bow down. And when it comes to these extremists out there, you better watch how you talk when you talk about me.
I ask this in all sincerity. What the was that? What the is he talking about? What? Look at his face. Was he? I'm sorry. Is he bringing the thug life to the Capitol? Dude, You don't do this very well at all. What is he talking about? Did you catch that?
There. You better watch how you talk when you talk about me.
Or else what? What are you going to do? It's so hilarious. Think this through for a minute. Dude, you're an elected official. You're a public servant. You decided that you want the trappings of office. You want the power that comes along with being an elevated member of the House of Representatives. Really impressive. One of 435. Good for you. He wanted this life. He wanted to be able to have control over people's lives. He wanted to be able to strut around Brooklyn or Washington, D.C. saying, yeah, I represent my district. And now I'm the minority leader, so I represent all the Democrats in America, right? It is, okay, that's fine, but you're in America. And in our constitutional republic that uses the democratic process to choose our representatives like you, Akeem, there's something that we were born with. We have a right to do something here. And that's talk to you however the hell we want. You don't like the way we're talking to you or talking about you, and now you're threatening us? And we're the authoritarians? Trump's the authoritarian? Hegseth and Vance are the authoritarians? Have you ever heard Trump? I mean, who has gotten criticized and slimed and libeled and defamed and threatened and attempted assassinated like Donald Trump has over the course of the last 10 years? And have you ever seen Donald Trump look the American people in the eye through a camera lens and say, you better watch how you're talking about me? Ever? Ever? And he's the authoritarian. He's the thug. He's the fascist. Is there anything more authoritarian than this attitude from this pipsqueak?
We will never bow down. And when it comes to these extremists out there, you better watch how you talk when you talk about me.
Or else what? What an absolute pansy. Chip Roy, congressman from Texas, has been analyzing this problem. 22 days now we're into this government shutdown. And you know the math. You know how it works. Republicans have the majority in the House. All you need is a bare majority. Just, 50-50 plus one gets you the win there, right? Executive branch, obviously, the president signs whatever bill he wants to sign or vetoes whatever he wants. In the Senate, even though the Republicans have the majority, you got to get to 60 votes. It's the filibuster. The filibuster can stop progress on most things in the Senate unless there are 60 votes. And that's where the Democrats have been stubborn, obstinate, stamping their feet, standing with their arms crossed like a baby having a tantrum. Chip Roy has looked at this and said, you know what, maybe it's time we do away with this stupid filibuster thing anyway.
Majority vote to do that anyway. And by the way, this whole notion of, look, I was a creature of the Senate as a staffer, but we need to be taking a look at the 60 vote threshold. I mean, we really do. At a minimum, why don't we take a look at it for CRs? Right? Why don't we just say, look, we have a 50 vote threshold for the budget. We have a 50 vote threshold for reconciliation. Why shouldn't we have a 50 vote threshold to be able to fund the government if the majority of the people want to do that? And look, I like being able to block bad things with 60 votes, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's a one-way ratchet, because but for basically Sinema and Manchin, they would have blown up the 60 vote threshold to advance their agenda. I think Republicans ought to take a long, hard look at the 60 vote threshold, because I think we're just being beholden to a broken system right now.
Congressman,
all right, so just so you have a little bit of history, there used to be a situation where Supreme Court justices and federal judges were held up by that 60 vote threshold. Harry Reid blew that up. They call it the nuclear option. He did away with it because Republicans have been stopping certain federal judges from being put forth, and Harry Reid blew it up, said, fine, no more filibuster. And it actually ended up being a brilliant little jujitsu move by Republicans, because they said, okay, if you want to do that, Harry, go ahead, but soon you're going to have a Republican president with a majority Republican in the Senate, and we're going to pass through whatever judges we want. You're going to have nothing to say about it. And that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. And so now Chip Roy and Republicans are flirting with the idea of doing the same. And I just got to say, let's learn a lesson from history. That 60 vote thing, as obnoxious as it may be, it actually has worked in our favor in the past. And we don't want to be Harry Reid regretting that every single day of our lives. John Fetterman, for his part, He thinks it's a good idea. And as reasonable as Fetterman seems, he's still a Democrat.
Your Republican colleagues have proposed nuking the filibuster to force the government to reopen. What do you?
Yeah, of course. Carve it out for that, absolutely. We ran on that. We ran on killing the filibuster, and now we love it. You know, it's like carve it out so we can move on.
Now, it is great that he points out the hypocrisy of the Democrats. It's true. When they ran and said, hey, give us the majority in the Senate, we'll nuke the filibuster and we'll push through whatever Biden wants done. Now, they didn't get it, but because of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, they stopped it from happening. But it is pretty hypocritical for the Democrats to now use that thing that they were going to nuke and get rid of and love it so much. So, I mean, listen, he's right about the hypocrisy for the Democrats, but no, I don't think it's time to get rid of the filibuster. That will bite us in the butt. Real fast, I've shown you Hakeem Jeffries. I've shown you Chuck Schumer. I've shown you the people who speak on behalf of the Democrats. How about this person? This is the whip for the Democrats, Catherine Clark. She's in the House. She's in charge of trying to make sure that Democrats all vote in unison. That's what the whips do. And she sat with Chad Pergram of Fox, and take a listen to this. Unbelievable.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, you know, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leveraged times we have. I mean, shutdown.
There you go. I think we showed this to you last week when she gave this interview, but that's the bottom line. Shutdowns are terrible. People are going to suffer. It's a terrible thing. But hey, without all that suffering, without all that pain, we don't have any leverage. Sorry, American people, but you know, girls got to do what a girl's got to do. They're losing on their messaging right now across the board. You just saw it, and I just showed it to you. The clock is ticking. It's only a question of time, and that time for the Democrats is running out. Buy gold and get free silver. That's a pretty good deal, isn't it? And it sounds too good to be true, but it's 100% happening right now. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they're going to send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. Gold is up over 40% since the beginning of the year. Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they're going to send you free silver honoring our veterans on qualifying purchases. And if you're a current or former member of the military, Birch Gold has a special offer just for you. They're waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They have tens of thousands of happy customers. I mean, you probably count yourself amongst them, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I encourage you right now to find out how you can diversify your savings into gold. Text my name, Larry, to the number 989898. You're going to get a free info kit on gold that'll fill you in on how this works. And you'll also claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchases. That has to happen before the end of the month. Again, text my name, Larry, to 989898. Do it today. We've been tracking the governor's race in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger versus Winsome Sears, also the entire statewide races, including the attorney general and lieutenant governor's races, too. The polls show it tightening. Today, there's this flurry of polls out there that show Abigail Spanberger with a 12-point lead. Sure, Jan. Yeah, we believe that. Don't buy it. Those polls are meant to sort of push Democrats to get excited about the race, and it's to suppress Republican votes, but nothing suppressing Republicans in Virginia right now. We're going to show you exactly how we can tell Abigail Spanberger is panicking. The Democrats are panicking. Their friends in the media are panicking. And Abigail Spanberger gave an answer to a question about those violent text messages by her buddy, her running mate, Jay Jones for Attorney General. Her answer, I mean, we've seen her flub some answers before, but what she said about those text messages will blow your mind. I'm going to show you that in a second. But first, let's start with Morning Joe earlier today as they're analyzing these races, Take a listen to what they said about Abigail Spanberger and how she's doing in Virginia.
It really is incredible when you have Abigail Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill, her background, all the different jobs that she has held in the military, and also like Alyssa Slotkin. I mean, my God, these women are incredible. And to them, I would say, fight, because we need them.
Yeah.
We need them.
And
leading.
And Mikey is like, she's doing a ton of interview. You know, when I talked to them, when I was in the car, you know, it was this car, she had gone from interview to talk to, but you know, you still see the anxiety.
Yeah, Cheryl did have a few missteps in her campaign, but she still has, as you say, about a 5 or 6 point lead per polling. Spanberger's lead in Virginia a little bigger than that, but you know, both still competitive races here heading into the last couple of weeks. But to Mika, to Molly's point, I mean, this is something that a lot of Democrats are grappling with right now. Is they've nominated women 2 of the last 3 elections for the presidency, lost both. There are some who say, well, we can't do that again. The stakes are too high. But of course, that does fall into the same misogynistic trap.
Other countries have no problem electing women.
I don't know if you could read between the lines like I could there, but that is desperation. We are 2 weeks out from these elections in Virginia and in New Jersey, and they are already laying the predicate. They are already setting the narrative. The country's country. I was going to say racist because that's usually the narrative, but that doesn't work in Virginia, does it? The country's sexist. It's the misogynist trap. Oh, we can't nominate a woman. Now, think this through for a minute. Oh, we've just nominated Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, and they were transcendently brilliant. They were perfect. Everybody loves them. They're not annoying at all. And they're so right on all the political issues, the most important issues to the American people. I mean, for crying out loud, look at all the newspapers that endorsed them. And yet they wouldn't vote for them. Why? Because the American people are sexist. And now they're looking at these 2 women, these 2 little cookie cutter cardboard cutouts of the stereotypical affluent female, liberal, suburban mom who, frankly, I mean, I know a lot of affluent suburban moms, and they're cool, and we hang out and drink wine together and laugh and joke and have fun. Can you imagine hanging out and having fun with these 2? These 2 are every man's nightmare about that white suburban woman. And by the way, every woman's nightmare that I know too. There's nothing real or genuine about them. They're like fingernails on the chalkboard when they deliver a speech or sit for an interview. We'll show you plenty of examples of Abigail Spanberger doing that. But think this through for a minute. We have this incredible dynamic woman, Abigail Spanberger, and she's struggling, and she might not win in Virginia. And clearly it's because the voters are sexist. She's running against a woman. So let me get this straight. Abigail Spanberger loses and Winsome Sears wins, and it's because Virginians are sexist. But what about if Winsome Sears loses? She's a woman. Doesn't that also prove that the voters are sexist? I'm not smart enough to sit at that table with those brainiacs, you know, Molly Jong-Fast and Al Sharpton. My intellect doesn't match what MSNBC is providing their morning show. But I would love for one of those geniuses to explain the sexism to me. Explain to me how Abigail Spanberger losing to a woman proves that there's sexism. Which brings us to the fingernails on the chalkboard. You know, we've talked about the Jay Jones text messages. You know the ones. This is the guy that the Democrats have nominated for Attorney General to be the top law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia. And he was caught sending text messages to a colleague about the Republican Speaker of the House in Richmond, Virginia, saying that he should get 2 bullets in the head over Hitler and Pol Pot, saying that he would only see the light on certain political issues in Virginia if his wife had to cradle their 2 murdered children in her arms. He said that more police officers need to be murdered so that they would change their position on political issues that matter most to Jay Jones. That's who this person is, right? We've talked about these text messages and the political fallout, but I have to apologize to you, my dear viewers and my dear listeners, because I realize now that in the several weeks we've been covering this story, I have missed out on the real victim in this entire story. The person who's been hit hardest by it, the person who has really felt the most pain, the person who has really been affected more than anyone else by Jay Jones and his anger issues and his violent rhetorics. And I'm not talking about Todd Gilbert, the man who supposedly is going to get 2 bullets. And no, not the 2 children who are fantasized about being murdered, or the mother, the grieving mother. No. They weren't the real victims. They didn't really feel the effect. Who's the real victim in all of this? Abigail Spanberger, apparently.
If I'm being very honest, we are 3 weeks away from an election in Virginia. I have worked tirelessly for 2 years running for this office. I announced in November 2023. The fact that I say this with all due respect because, I think it's a fair thing for you to ask about, the fact that I have to spend even a moment's time talking about somebody else's text messages from years ago rather than what I want to do as governor is something that I am deeply unhappy about. The fact that I can't spend every minute of the day talking about the plans that I have built out, not to be too hokey about it, but like my multiple pages of plans, my affordability plan, my education plan, my growing our economy plan, because of the, poor choices of another candidate, it is something that really clouds my view of all of it. And so, what we, the collective, we would have done, had this information come to light much earlier, I will say this, I would be much, much happier as a candidate if I could just talk about all of the things that I am for.
There you go. That quite possibly the most annoying conversation about politics that you can ever imagine. Abigail Spanberger and Katie Couric with a full minute, 21 seconds of Abigail Spanberger whining about the fact that she has to answer for her support of her violent running mate who fantasizes about the murder of little children. I can't believe that I have to lower myself to respond to questions like this. Don't you know I have a plan for affordability? Why aren't you more interested in that? This was pathetic. This was pathetic and the perfect example of what kind of weak leader this person is. I cannot believe that this race is even close. Winsome Shears should be up by 20 points, and it tells you how baked in the cake things are for Democrats, that they elevate this woman up to the level. A few months ago, they were talking about her running on the national ticket in 2028. That is pathetic, and it gets worse. She showed up on the news set, WTVR. I think this is Richmond, Virginia, asked about Jay Jones. Again, she really loves answering those questions. And take a listen to this lie.
So there's been a bit of a distraction, as you're well aware.
I'm sorry, I got to jump in there. Here's the news anchor setting up the question about Jay Jones, saying it's a bit of a distraction. Yeah, it's a bit of a distraction for Todd Gilbert and his wife as they have to lay in bed imagining that Jay Jones wants to murder their children. That's a bit of a distraction. I'm so sorry that I even have to ask this question, because it's been a distraction from the things that we really care about, which is doing whatever we can to help you win this election, because that's what we're here for. All right, I'll start it again.
So So there's been a bit of a distraction, as you're well aware. Last week, there was a debate among the Attorney General candidates. Were you satisfied with the Democratic candidate, Jay Jones's apology for the texts that he had sent that were seemingly threatening the life of the then House Speaker?
Well, I want to begin by first, condemning clearly the text that he sent to a colleague, and I condemned them as soon as I learned of them, and called on Jay Jones to publicly explain himself. And I think that he's been quite clear in his apologies and in his taking ownership of that poor choice. And importantly, at this point, we've got hundreds of thousands of Virginians who have voted. Certainly, I think that debate was an important one for being able to show the contrast and the difference between two different approaches for voters to be able to make a clear decision as they vote early or on election day for who will best defend them or work for them.
Please, God, help us. I cannot live with 4 years of this uptalker as the governor. Did you hear? Jay Jones has taken accountability. Well, how? By doing what? What, because he got a dip in the polls and he's gotten some bad press? That's accountability? No, accountability is actually taking ownership for what you did and stepping down. Also, did you notice? He was very clear in his apologies. Yeah, because he had the issue, like 3 or 4 of them. Because the first couple of ones, the first one, he blamed Donald Trump for the text messages he sent, and he never actually used the words, "I'm sorry." In fact, I don't think he's ever said, "I'm sorry." He said, "I regret." That's not the same thing. Has he called Todd Gilbert to talk to him? Has he had a face-to-face with him to explain himself? Did he explain himself to you? I haven't seen him explain himself. Abigail Spanberger is trying to rewrite history now and tell you that he's explained himself. Of course he hasn't. She's just a liar. Do you know how I can tell that she's a liar? And she is. I mean, she is. Listen, all politicians are liars. I get it. She is a CIA-trained liar. Literally, that's her resume. You know how I know? She's like, sometimes liars give you little tells. Sometimes liars say things that on the face of it sound like it's fine, but then when you actually stop and you actually analyze the words they're saying, you realize that they're admitting that they're liars. Let me take you back to this interview with Katie Couric. Maybe you caught it. Take a listen to the very first thing she says when asked about the Jay Jones texts.
If I'm being very honest, we are 3 weeks.
Yeah, right there. See, that's the kind of thing a liar says. So I'm going to ask you this question, Abigail Spanberger, about the Jay Jones texts, okay? And her answer is, well, if I'm being honest, well, hold on, let me stop you right there. Have you not been honest up until now? Now, no, I know it's just like a rhetorical flourish. It's just a manners phrase. It's just, don't take it so literally. No, I take it very literally. It's at that moment in the interview. It's at that moment in the campaign when she prefaces her statement with, you know what? Enough with everything else I've said. Now I'm going to be honest. That's an instinct to say something like that suggests to me maybe you've got a problem with honesty. All right, back to Katie Couric here, who asked Abigail Spanberger about transgender policies. That's another thing that Abigail Spanberger just can't bring herself to answer clearly about. As you know, we've shown you the word salad multiple times. Take a listen to this new twist on her position.
And I think the real challenge is there's a lot of people who've, never met a trans person, whether they're a trans youth or an adult. And so there's a real effort to engage in some level of fear mongering. And, I really do believe that we should, as a society as a whole, demonstrate a fair amount of grace to people who are confused about, when we're talking about bathrooms or when we're talking about sports participation, like what are we talking about? And, I recognize, and I'm a parent, I've got 3 daughters in Virginia public schools. And so I understand the fact that there, may be confusion about, what is my opponent as a, very clear example, kind of threatening. And importantly, the willingness to fearmonger with or against kids who are, trying to figure out who they are, who are in, a challenging point in their life. Middle school and high school isn't easy for most people. let alone if you might be struggling with or trying to come to terms with your identity. And so just as a basic issue of principle, I do find it really objectionable that, that there would be kids who turn on the television and is in an effort to attack me, see, images of themselves sort of reflected as a villain.
Okay, so a couple of things here. We're going to break this down, but on that last point, just so you know, most of us are mostly concerned about Abigail Spanberger's position, not necessarily on children who are struggling, as she says, figuring out their identity, going to the locker room. No. We have a very real issue in Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, where an adult male multiple repeat sex offender who is now claiming he identifies as a woman, and he was caught in a woman's locker room with little children there as he was exposing himself and pleasuring himself in front of them. And he's been arrested and he's facing trial. And he was allowed to do that because of her policies. Now, I know she wants to make this sound like it's all about 12-year-old kids who are just confused because they're going through puberty. And sure, there's an element of that. But in the real world, we've got sexual predators out there who are utilizing these policies to prey on children. And that's the last thing she wants to talk about. So she's trying to muddle the issue. And just understand the message she just sent. If you have a problem with these policies, you're the problem. You're the bigot. You're the fearmonger. That's disgusting. And that's despicable. And by the way, she keeps talking about her 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters. I have 3 daughters. They're going to, excuse me, Madam Spanberger, if I could just take a question. How do you know they're daughters? What makes them girls? Please explain to me the distinguishing characteristics of your 3 daughters that you keep talking about. You brought them up, okay? I'm not going to, I didn't want to bring up your kids, but since you're using them as some sort of shield or political prop to explain your position on this, which is incoherent, then fine, let's go there. Explain to me what makes your daughters daughters. What makes them girls? Can you define that for me, please? Yeah, that's what I thought. Meanwhile, Democrats have made a big announcement in the New Jersey and Virginia races that's supposed to be getting you a lot of excitement and really supposed to, oh my gosh, look at this. The DNC is really making an investment, as they call it, in these races. Check it out. 6-figure investments in the New Jersey and Virginia races. Wow. But then actually, when you think about that for a second, that's nothing. I mean, really, if you think about it, the Democrats tweeted this out themselves. As we head into the number 4th elections, we're making major investments to get out the vote in New Jersey, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a suburb of New Jersey. I don't think they're getting out the vote in Pennsylvania, though, because, well, they're not registered to vote in New Jersey. That would be illegal. I'm sure they're not admitting that they're breaking the law there. I think they just mean that it'll be ads in the Pennsylvania market, the Philadelphia market. Excuse me, Philadelphia is, New Jersey is a suburb of Philadelphia. I didn't want to get that backwards. Think about that for a second, though. They're not saying exactly how much it is. They're just saying it's 6 figures. So it could be $999,999, right? That's the biggest 6-figure you can get. But if it were that much, they would have announced that much, right? Right. I mean, even if it were $500,000, they would have announced that much, I would think. It's probably less than that. And it's split across 2 different states. So let's say it's 500,000. That means each state is getting 250,000. Although in New Jersey, they're spending some of it in the Philadelphia market too. You know, when you think about it, that's actually not a whole lot of money at all. Is this really a sign of confidence? Meanwhile, what are Republicans doing? Apparently, there's a surge in spending in Virginia right now, 2 weeks ahead of time. The Attorney General's race, Republicans, $4.8 million. For the governor's race, they're both matching around $3.2 million. And meanwhile, cash on hand for Republicans at this time, the RNC has $86 million. The DNC, $12 million. That ain't great, kid. Not if you're a Democrat. Now, trust me. This is an uphill fight, and I think it will be a miracle if Republicans can pull this off, considering first of all, let's not forget, these are both solidly blue states. I can't remember the last time New Jersey voted for a Republican. It might have been George Herbert Walker Bush. And the last time Virginia voted for a Republican was George W. Bush. So these are uphill battles. And the fact that it's this close 2 weeks out is a miracle, given the historical trends of what happens in these states 1 year after a Republican wins the White House. That said, there's a chance here. There's a chance. And if the Republicans have that much money on hand right now, maybe they should do something with it. All righty. Jen Psaki time, and then we'll get to your super chats. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Karine Jean-Pierre. You remember her. She was the person who was paid with your tax dollars to lie to you about Joe Biden. Well, her predecessor, Jen Psaki, she apparently got a little jealous that KJP was getting so much attention. So the OG Biden liar, she sat for a podcast and she said something a little curious about the vice president and his wife.
I think the little Manchurian candidate, JD Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are you
Agreed.
okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there. And that your whole iteration you just outlined, I mean, he's scarier in certain ways.
He's smarter.
In some ways. And he's young.
Yeah. And ambitious.
And ambitious. And agile in the sense that he is a chameleon who makes
Right.
himself into whatever he thinks the audience wants to hear from him. Now, what's also true, though, is JD Vance is not, he's in some ways goodish on paper if you like what he believes in. I don't know. But I don't know that he can take the whole movement with him.
No way.
I don't think so either.
There's no riz.
It's got no riz, right?
None.
And he just is a little odd. And
Totally.
so Trump's odd in a different way. So I'm skeptical of that. So yeah, he's got to, I mean, everything going on right now, and I think we have to be very clear-eyed about this, is about trying to manipulate the public around elections.
Okay, fine. All right. Let's break this down, and we're going to go backwards in time on this one. First of all, I got to tell you, the whole narrative that JD Vance is actually scarier than Donald Trump, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. They tried this out when they thought Trump was done and maybe DeSantis was going to be the heir apparent there back to the early part of the Biden administration, and they were trying to convince you that DeSantis is actually a lot scarier than Trump. Whoever it is, I promise you, they're a lot scarier than Trump. The next Republican is always a lot scarier than the last one. I remember when John McCain was super scary, scarier than Bush. And Mitt Romney, oh, you think McCain was scary. Romney is he's scarier than all of them combined. It's what they do. And so there's that. Also, again, I just want to point this out. I said it the other day. I don't know why this podcast is suddenly the flavor of the month for the libs. They do this all day, but this is the one. It's I've had it. Look at the logo. Is there anything more attractive and appealing to the American people than a white woman of a certain age with liberal political views sitting with her arms crossed, looking at you saying, I've had it? Yeah, sign me up for that, baby. Sign me up for that one. That's the conversation I want to participate in. But take a listen to the tail end of this, and then we'll go to the thing she said at the beginning.
And he's young.
Yeah. And ambitious.
And agile in the sense that he is a chameleon who makes
Right.
himself into whatever he thinks the audience wants to hear from him. Now, what's also true, though, is JD Vance is not, he's in some ways goodish on paper if you like what he believes in. I don't know. But I don't know that he can take the whole movement with him.
No way.
I don't think so
way.
either.
I mean, let's face it. When have these women or women like them ever been wrong about the MAGA movement, about Donald Trump and his voters? I mean, when have they ever misjudged you? When have they ever failed to really get you and understand what motivates you and what you're all about? So the level of confidence, the lack of humility or curiosity here is so arrogant and close-minded and stubborn. Just think about this for a minute. 10 years of vilifying Donald Trump, turning into Hitler, fascist, Stalin, Nazi, Klansman, criminal, felon, sexual predator, all the things that they've done. And he still won the election. Now you've got the potential for a candidate who, as she just put it, on paper, basically affirms the president's agenda and policies. After all, he was the hand-picked running mate and is now the vice president, probably one of the most effective vice presidents we've seen in our lifetimes, in participating with the president and articulating and working for his agenda. As Jen Psaki just conceded, on paper, he's got all of those things. But she says they all agree there's no way he can take the movement with him. Well, hold on a minute. So you're saying he represents all of Trump's issues and the agenda, and he's actually, by the time he runs, will have done 4 years of actually employing the agenda and effectuating the agenda. And, oh, by the way, he doesn't have all of the baggage that you've heaped on Trump. He doesn't do the angry Kafifi tweets. He isn't a convicted felon. He doesn't have, he isn't called Hitler. Well, they'll call him Hitler by the time it's done. But you know what I'm saying? It's like he is literally Trump without all of the Trump stuff that they've heaped on Trump, but they're confident that there's no way he can carry the entire movement. They're just, why does anyone take them seriously? None of it makes any logical sense. And again, if you're trying to figure out the Republican Trump supporting phenomenon, maybe you shouldn't keep going back to the people who have been consistently wrong about you and about that group for the last 10 years. Which brings us to the beginning part of this podcast. Did you catch what she said about the second lady?
I think the little Manchurian candidate, JD Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are you
Agreed.
okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you.
First of all, before I forget, this whole idea that it's a criticism of JD Vance, the vice president of the United States, because he really wants to be president. Every elected official in America wants to be president. Half of the people who ran for office who didn't win want to be president. And certainly, I'm sorry, has there ever been a vice president who didn't want to be president? Other than Dick Cheney, who frankly had a lot of the presidential powers without having to run for president. It's just a stupid, imbecilic comment to make. But then she turns on the wife. Oh, boy. They should rename this the Mean Girls podcast. There's nothing more vicious than a liberal woman going after another woman who doesn't do what they demand she do. How dare Usha Vance marry a man like that?
Wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are
Agreed.
you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you.
Just disgusting and despicable. And I just want to point out for a second. Listen, I get it. Politics is a big boy and big girl sport. And I know that, the rules are you do what you got to do to win and to advance your idea and advance your party and advance your agenda, advance your candidate, whatever. And I know that when Usha Vance, as the wife of the vice president, decided that she was going to, put herself out there with her family and participate in the campaign, that, yeah, she was going to be a target and they were going to criticize her. Of course, obviously, I get it. But here's the thing about Usha Vance. If you've been watching her for the last year and a half, really, since she's been in the public eye, yeah, she does campaign appearances. She doesn't give speeches. She doesn't speak at rallies. She's by her husband's side. She's with her children. And now that they've won the election, she does her job as the second lady. She raises her kids. She's not really a big-time political player. She hasn't injected herself into the political conversation. She doesn't have a political agenda, as it were. other than to be her husband's wife and the mother of her husband's children. Maybe that's what they find so objectionable about her. I don't know. Maybe they're inferring onto her some level of political positions that they think she has that are contrary to her husband's, and that's why they're saying, do you need us to come rescue you, which is insulting and disgusting. What kind of political figure is Usha Vance? Well, we searched in vain to find some kind of political speech or political rally that she participated in. She spoke at the RNC. She introduced her husband. This is a good example of the kind of politics that Usha Vance has engaged in.
I grew up in San Diego in a middle-class community. With two loving parents, both immigrants from India, and a wonderful sister. That JD and I could meet at all, let alone fall in love and marry, is a testament to this great country.
Well, this is why they hate her. Yeah, her entire speech is like 5-10 minutes long, was just talking about herself and her husband and how they met and what kind of man he is. And speaking of his character, nothing about policies, nothing about positions, nothing about legislation, nothing about any of it. That was it. And they hate her. And now they're using her as some sort of despicable political weapon to attack her husband and drive a wedge between the two of them, and to publicly shame her for being a loving husband or loving wife to JD Vance. Is there anything more disgusting than that? And by the way, Usha Vance's performance in the campaign as the wife of the running mate, I think it's appropriate to hold up what you just saw from Usha Vance and compare it to the woman the Democrats put forth as the wife of the candidate for vice president. Remember this piece of work? Gwen Walz, unlike what you just saw from Usha Vance, the personification of class and dignity, here's Gwen Walz.
But I kind of liked it when she did this. Turn the page. You like that? Okay, so I need you to be with me and practice with me. What are we going to do? We're going to turn the page. Oh, pretty good. Do it again. We're going to turn the page. And we're going to turn the page. All right, so I'm going to be watching you because when I see Wisconsin, and I'm one watching national and TV because it's a pretty important place in Minnesota, help you practice with this. You just show me this. Turn the page, right? Turn the page. And you know what else that looks like? Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Donald Trump. We are turning the page. 52 days and we are turning the page. 52 days and it is bye-bye, Donald Trump.
Yeah, so we got Usha Vance as the second lady. And they hate her. They wanted to give us Gwen Walz, and they love her. I just want to make sure you caught all of that. We've got to zoom in on the woman the Democrats wanted to be the second lady.
Bye-bye, Donald Trump. We are turning the page. 52 days and we are turning the page. 52 days and it is bye-bye, Donald Trump.
Yeah. See, they love her. Their problem is with the normal people in this country. This is who they love. This is the kind of woman that measures up to the Jen Psaki's and the I've had it crowd on MSNBC.
That's almost unwatchable.
I'm so sorry to do this to you. We needed to hammer home the point, Kevin. Are you going to be okay? Do we need to say a rosary to just cleanse?
I need group therapy.
Maybe just a decade. All right. I'll move on then, and we'll pivot back over to Jen Psaki and give you some of the highlights of her career, because see, her problem is with the Usha Vances of the world, and I think I know why. Because if you remember right, MSNBC refused to call the election in the wee hours of the morning when everybody else did. They were still the bitter clingers. They were hanging on. They had their nails dug into the side of the chair that they were sitting in. They were like the Japanese, World War II soldiers in a cave in Iwo Jima, thinking that the emperor was still alive and the fight was still going on, right? And it wasn't until about 5:36 in the morning the next day on Wednesday that they finally called the race. And guess who had to do it? That's right. Peppermint Patty.
Still a long way for her to go, but they
Steve Kornacki, I just have to jump in. And you've been predicting this. We've been waiting for it. And we do have some breaking news from the decision desk. NBC News can now project that Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, which means he is the winner of this race and will return to the White House as this country's 47th president. And for so many of you watching right now, that news is, to say the least, a lot to digest. I understand that personally. After he lost 4 years ago, he refused to accept the outcome and incited a violent insurrection on our nation's capital. He's campaigned while facing criminal indictments related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 results, and he's run as a convicted felon. During this campaign, he has also promised to essentially be an authoritarian leader, to use power like no American president ever has before, and wield that power to go after his political enemies. This is a man who's also bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade and stripping away women's bodily autonomy. He's promised to conduct mass deportations to crack down on the rights of millions of Americans.
That's right.
Donald Trump is an anti-democratic force, but he's just been elected democratically in our country. And here's what might be the hardest part to hear, but we have to talk about and we have to say, and it is a hard part to digest for all of us. But we have to be honest about what we saw in this election. Donald Trump was elected by expanding his support over a number of key groups that we've been digging into this night, all night tonight, as we anticipated where this was headed. And I know we're going to dig into it throughout the course of the day today. And there will be a lot of time spent on how and why he won and what this will mean for the country over the next 4 years and beyond.
Oh, God, I just can't get enough of that. And hearing the tone in her voice, she's never going to get over that traumatic moment. The fact that it was Jen Psaki who drew the short stick there on MSNBC and had to make the announcement. And there's something about the fact that as she's going through the long litany, the list of all the horrible things that Donald Trump has done and will do and promised to do and campaigned on, that this was the image that the viewers at MSNBC had to stare at. Trump with that big eating grin on his face, saying, "That's right. That's right, Jen. I'm coming for you. You bet your ass I'm coming for you." Oh, that's great. And as glorious it is for us to watch Jen Psaki have to struggle with that kind of emotional, mental trauma, it really did have an effect on her. But there's good news for Jen Psaki. Part of the podcast here was talking about the vision now that they have over there in their little clubhouse, because the MSNBC to MS Now rebrand is about to happen. And she gave us a little preview of what MS Now is going to be all about. Do you want to hear? I know I do, because let's face it, the crap that happens on MS Now is going to be a big part of our programming going forward. So, what do you got in store for us, Jan?
Really excited about the reporters who are coming to MS Now, who are already with us. I mean, people who have, Carol and Ken have broken, I don't know, it feels like a story every day.
Yes.
And they're part of what we're going to be doing. And a lot of what we do is storytell and not bullshit and just tell people what's happening. And that's exciting to be a part of and to be our own world of it. Let's not debate the sky's blue. The sky's blue, right? And I don't think we have to have another side of, was it the pros and cons of Letitia James being indicted, right? There are no pros.
There are no pros.
There are many cons. Here are all the things with it. That is one of the things I so appreciate.
Okay, so a couple of things. I don't know if you picked up on all that, but now that we're going to be MS Now and not MSNBC, we don't have to be as fair and balanced as we've been up until now. That's what she's saying. And did you catch the whole, we can do a whole lot of storytelling instead of bullshit? In other words, up until now, pretty much what we do at MSNBC is bullshit. This is a beautiful thing to behold. It's going to be so good. It's going to be like Blue Sky, 24/7 streaming of Blue Sky, adapted into video storytelling. Gorgeous. Which, by the way, let's just take a quick gander over at MSNBC, because as she just put it, we don't have to worry about the pros and cons of a story anymore. We can just tell it like it is. We don't have to worry about being fair and balanced. Okay, let's take a quick look here. Yesterday, how fair and balanced they were. This is MSNBC reporting that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the president, the executive office's ability to direct the National Guard, because the executive branch is, in fact, the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. We all knew this was going to happen. This has to do with deploying the National Guard in Portland, Oregon. So here's their legal analyst there, and let's take a look at how they bend over backwards to make sure that they report a story like this in a very fair, balanced, antiseptic, kind of just nothing but the facts kind of fashion. Come on, you journalists, let's go.
It is a big deal, and I want to just correct one thing and then explain why functionally it is the same. This is a stay of Judge Immergut's opinion, and that's why it reached the Ninth Circuit as soon as it did, because this is an emergency motion to essentially pause her order. But as a functional matter, you are absolutely correct. It has the function of overturning her order and thereby allowing the president to send the National Guard back onto the streets of Portland. And Katie, I want to read, if I can, just from a little bit of the beginning of this 93-page opinion. It says, after considering the record, and by the record they mean all the factual evidence at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. Section 12406. That's the statute we've been referring to as Title 10 when we have conversations about the National Guard deployments, which authorizes the federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. And this is the important part. The evidence the president relied on reflects, quote, a colorable assessment of the facts and law within a range of honest judgment. We thus conclude that defendants are likely to succeed on the merits of their appeal, basically saying that when and if a court considers all of the record in this matter is tried and it gets back to an appellate court through an ordinary process where they have full briefing and full evidence, that they still think Donald Trump is likely to prevail there because he has the discretion to determine as the president within a range of honest judgment when it is reasonable to deploy the Guard.
This is what you and I were talking about last week. When you get into the slippery slope.
Yeah, slippery slope. Did you notice how she was on the verge of tears? Did you notice how emotionally pitched her voice was? How breathless she was with anxiety and emotion over the law? Over judges coming down on the side of the law. That's the fair and balanced, sort of even-handed approach that MSNBC now takes. The same network that brings you Jen Psaki and Michael Steele, and until recently had Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and Lawrence O'Donnell and Joe and Mika and Reverend Al Sharpton and all the rest. They don't have to be as fair and balanced anymore now that they're going to be MS Now. They're Jen Psaki's network now, and yeah, they're going to do whatever they can to attack Usha Vance because they're all about the storytelling. Thank you guys for watching our show today from our undisclosed. Oh no, I did disclose our location, didn't I? Thanks for watching. Like our video, please, if you don't mind, and subscribe to what we do here so you don't miss a episode. Do we have any super chats, or do you have any questions about New York that I can answer for you? Stumbleboots with a $5 super chat. You're cool too. Thank you very much, Stumbleboots. Love it, Clippy. I appreciate that. Ball State alum, $5 super chat. Larry's lighting brought to you by Phil Collins Lighting and Mama. I did bring another light, and here's the problem. I am relying on natural light here in my high-rise hotel room in Manhattan. And the fact is, we had some clouds, so it got a little. I could feel it on my face, Jeffrey. And I don't travel with a full lighting kit, okay, pal. Jeffrey's actually a trained lighting designer, so thank you. Psychological Projectionist with a £5 super chat. There are 3 infinities, the universe, human stupidity, and dem self-entitlement. Have Democrats never released info at the time it can do the most damage? Oh yeah, it's so their pretend lack of self-awareness. They know when they're lying and gaslighting you, psychological protagonists. Thank you for the £5. Jeff Depew Sr., $2 super chat. Great team, Larry and Kevin make it so informative. Oh, thank you, sir. We do our best. And Epic Beard, as always, Jeff. Thank you for that. Patrick with a £10 super chat. Thank you, Patrick. That's enough for a pint. How does snarky, vile left-wing women like Saki Spanberger, et cetera, appeal to women voters? Look at Mrs. Trump, Kristi Noem, Susie Wiles, Linda McMahon, all high-achieving, inspiring women, no contest. Well, you know what? Just to be clear, and again, I'm just going on polling data, demographics, et cetera, et cetera. It's mostly single women. It's one of the reasons why there's such an anti-marriage, anti-man message coming from liberals and the left and Democrats, because generally speaking, even if you are liberal in your college years and in your 20s, when you get married and when you start a family, you tend to get more conservative. And eventually you start voting Republican. Now, Hillary Clinton will write that off. You've heard them say this before. And actually, you saw the ads in the Kamala Harris, this last campaign, where they showed women who were like winking at each other and voting at the voting booth while their MAGA hat wearing husbands were standing by. And remember the voiceover in those ads saying, no one knows who you vote for. In other words, you don't have to vote because your mean, abusive, domineering husband tells you to vote for Trump. He'll never know. Go ahead and vote for the right, because that's what they think of married women. They think that they're all just dominated and controlled by their sexist, abusive husbands. They have so little regard for women and their independence and their intellect. It's despicable, to tell you the truth. But that is the key factor. It's not just women, it's single women in particular. And that's why they advance policies that try to keep women from getting married. Thank you for that, Patrick. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to pontificate. Lady Cop, $2 super chat. What? No Bernie laughs today? I'm disappointed. You know, Bernie sort of laid low last night. Although, if you were listening, when I did my Chuck Schumer, I suddenly started to talk like Bernie Sanders. And I don't know why I did that. Thank you, Lady Cop, for noticing, though. Chuck Schumer is more nasal like this. He's more like this, and we are not going to do this, and it's one of the, it's still New York. But Bernie Sanders is more like a Jackie Mason. I don't know. I'm playing the Catskills. I did this. I told a joke. And then I got fired from Ed Sullivan. And now I'm making money on Broadway. And I don't know what to say. Are we done, Kevin?
We are through.
I feel very done. All right.
Well, we still got 2 days left in this week to bring some.
Yes, we do. We got plenty more. Ooh, look at I'm warm. I perspired. Do people notice how much I perspire during the show? Or
I mean, when you stand up and show them, I think they will.
Well, usually I wear a dress shirt over the t-shirt. And in our post show, you know what we should do is sell like 4-figure super chats to the post show discussion that Kevin and I have. Boy, that's worth something. But oftentimes I will take off my dress shirt and I will show Kevin. So I don't mind. I'll go ahead and give you a freebie. Look at that.
Jump scare incoming.
That's actually not as bad as it usually is. I work my ass off on this show. It takes a lot of energy to do this.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Just give me a hard time.
I'm not proud. I'm also a sweater. That's it. I got a train to catch. Heading back down to DC. One day in New York is enough for me. Man, it's a great town, but not for long. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same, not this place. We'll be back at our regular place. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.